Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. I hope you brought your coffee or a cold one. This is another Rambling Rampage, number 3. Anyway, I'm going to make this one. We're going to talk about Ryobi and in particular about Ryobi batteries and what I think I can do with them. I've been giving some thought. There's a resource of battery power that you have there that should go well beyond using them in the tools, quite honestly. And I think that I've seen a lot of examples of that in other videos. Um, Most of the battery tools, the tool companies that have batteries, they don't seem to like you to use their batteries for anything other than in their tools. So they always try to keep secret what's going on in that battery. They trying to find out information of your charging and your discharging max rates and that sort of thing, and it's almost impossible to find out what that is on these batteries. Anyway, some of the stuff I have discovered more about the charging aspects or the discharging aspects of the battery than the charging. I have discharged both this one and my 5 amp battery at 10 amps discharge rate from full charge to empty, and it did it in the calculated amount of time that it would take to draw 9 amp hours out of a 10 amp battery. If you did the math on that, that's what it took. Charging it back up, I have learned one thing about charging these things, and charging lithium-ion batteries is probably more important than what you're pulling out of it, because it does have its own BMS, and that helps protect it from overdoing things pretty much. But their charging on this is still a mystery to me. Now, I do know for a fact that most of their battery chargers, all the ones that I have actually seen personally, they all charge at 2 amps. And what that means is that when they first came out with that, and they had the 2 amp hour battery was the biggest one they had, they said they could charge a battery up in an hour. Well, that was true. But then after they came out with the larger ones, like the 5 amp or the 9 amp hour, when they came out with these, this takes 4.5 hours to charge from dead to full charge on their chargers. That tells me that it's charging at 2 amps per hour. Can it charge at a higher rate? We're going to find out. When I do, I will share that information with you of what I've learned. But I have no idea what the real true capacities of this. They've done a couple little quirks on them that I'm not sure, and I think they have a couple of new features that they're starting to do too about super draw, and they have another terminal or something. I just heard about that the other day, so it's something I'm trying to find out. But they really truly do keep their secrets about their batteries like it should be a top secret. And actually, there's a lot of things you can do with this battery, and I'm going to give you a couple examples before we're done here, and things that they don't even make with their Ryobi batteries that I know could be of use. So it is a battery. That's all it is. It's a 20 volt battery, a 7S, I think it would be. 7 little batteries in series, and to be the 9 volt one, I think it probably has three of those in parallel. The 5 amp, I think, has 2 in parallel, and so on. So it's basically like any other battery out there, lithium-ion battery that you buy. It's just made from the little cells, the 18650 cells is all it is. Their BMS is where the mystery really is, of what they want you to do and not do with it. So that's like charging it. You can't just hook up to this and charge it back up. It does not register with the fuel gauge when you do it that way. You have to have somehow involve this third terminal to do that. Serendipity Sue. I hate saying that word. It's just so difficult for me. Anyway, on his channel, he showed me one way that you can do that so that it updates his charger with a resistor across here. And that's something I haven't really checked out. As far as discharging, I pretty much have an idea of what you can do with these batteries. But it's charging that I'm not sure about yet. And the reason that I'm worried about all that is because I do want to use these batteries in my fogs system a little better than I have been. Because actually, there's a lot of power in one of these things, because this is at 20 volts. When they rate the amps on these things and the watts, and you think compare that to a 12-volt battery, it really isn't comparison. This is actually not much less power than my 16 amp hour batteries that are 12 volt. That's 180 watt hours that you can get out of it. This one's rated at 162, so it's not too far, much less than that one in all reality, even though it's only 9 amp hours instead of 16. So my thought was, first, real quick, a disclaimer. As I go through all this, I'm going to interchange three different words: watts, amps, and volts. I'm going to call this a 9-volt battery instead of a 12-volt, or a 20 amp hour battery. Accidentally, just translate that. My brain doesn't work as fast as my mouth does sometimes, so we'll chalk it up to senility. You can say it however you want, but just kind of interpret what I find when I make those mistakes. I've done this video several times, and I keep making that interchange error. So just bear with it if you don't mind, because you know I don't edit here. So anyway, I had this crazy idea of what thing we can do with it. I have 3 lithium-ion phosphate batteries. These are lithium-ion batteries. The phosphate style, I have 3 of them. One of them is a 100 amp hour, and the other 2 are 16 amp hours. I put them together to give me a 32 amp hour battery pack. And the other one is a 100 amp hour battery pack. But I've been thinking about that, and I think I've done it wrong. I think I could do better by taking those 2 16 amp hour batteries and put them in their individual battery packs. And they basically would have 180 watts of watt hours. Excuse me. They would each have 180 watt hours. Well, this is 162. So what if I took 1 or 2 of these and plugged them in with that 16 amp hour battery? I could then flexibly either add these or not add these to the basic pack and increase the amount of amp hours you can get out of that thing. And you say, well, how do you do that? These are 20 amp and those are 12 amp, excuse me. And that's right. But I've been thinking about that, and I think that one thing I have figured out is that a nice little buck converter, DC to DC buck converter, if I take that battery, instead of having both of them, I could actually even do it to that one. Leave it at 32 and plug these into it and add more. But I think I can get 2 battery packs instead of 1 by doing this. Because my 16 amp hour battery pack would be where everything is based off of. Everything is coming out through that battery. But I can actually add a charging feature using the buck converter, and I can plug this in and convert the 20 volts and reduce it down to 12 volts. And I'm just rounding off. I would reduce it down to whatever I need to for the optimum size of that battery. And I think it's like 13.2, 13.7. Anyway, whatever it is, that's where my buck converter would bring it out at. So basically, then that would act like a charger. That means that I'm using this battery here to charge that 12-volt battery. And when this drains down completely, everything will go from here into that battery. So even if I am using that battery at that time, I can process one of these or 2 of these into it so that it keeps charging that battery up, and it gives it more amp hours as a result. When these get fully discharged, I can unplug them. It doesn't change anything going on with the battery pack where it's plugged in and being used. And I can take these somewhere, charge them back up, and put them back in there so I can continuously charge that battery while it's still being used without having to actually plug any kind of cord into it. And I can perpetually keep it going forever by rotating these batteries. That's my theory. I think I can do that, and I'm going to work. That's one of the things I want to work on in the Ryobi area that I want to do, is I'm going to make 2 battery packs out of those 2 batteries that are 16 amp hours apiece. The load will be the same on either one. Those things are high discharge rates of like 2.5 C, so I still get that discharge capability even from one of them. But I can get more amp hours to pull from it by adding a couple of plugins and being able to plug these in and out to help refurbish that battery, recharge it while it's in use. So am I going to pull a 40 amp load on those? Oh, no. No way. But I would be able to. And I can do that whether it's a 1 battery or a 2. The only difference would be is how long would it pull that kind of amperage. Most of the time, I'm going to be less than 20 amps and I'm pulling on anything. And probably less than 10 in all reality on virtually everything I would plug into it. So it's not going to just run that battery down in 20 minutes. But I can actually extend the life of what it's doing and continue it perpetually forever, theoretically, as long as I have a source to charge these up. And I'm not draining it faster, then I can use these to charge it up as I go along. So, and that's all math stuff that we don't need to get into right now. But the basic theory, I think, is sound. This is basically my power supply for one of those 16 amp hour battery packs. And I just keep putting them in and take them back and charge it, plug it in again. So I have to bring the power over. It's like pouring gasoline into a gas tank to keep it going on your generator. You keep adding gas to it and it keeps running. I think I can do that with Ryobi batteries. So we're going to try that. Nobody's ever done it. I've been thinking about it. I don't see why it wouldn't work. So we're going to try that and I'll let you know how it comes out. Any ideas or suggestions about that? I would love it if you shared them because I think it's something that nobody's ever talked about or anything. And if you want to try to do this yourself and you need some of my information, just ask. And if you come up with it faster than me, that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. This is an idea that I'm just putting out there. Eventually, I hope to make it a prototype of it with what I already have pretty much. So I think that maybe I can actually do something pretty cool. Now, as far as charging these back up, that's a separate item. And charging this back up is a little bit more of a mystery. Not only because you also have to do something with the fuel gauge to keep updating it, but also it's a mystery of how much you can actually put in one of these. Now, several years ago, when they came out with the battery charger and the Ryobi battery, it was lithium-ion, and it was a 2 amp hour battery. It was the biggest one they made right at the very first. And if you remember, they used to brag about charging your battery back up in an hour. That was because all their battery chargers charge at 2 amps. So if I put this battery in there and it's dead, it'll take 4.5 hours to charge it up. I think I can charge this at the same power rate that I charge a 2 amp battery, which is 1C. I think I can, but I don't know until I try. So we're going to play with charging these things up a little more, and I'll let you know what I come out with. But if I'm right, I should be able to plug this into the battery pack, charge that battery pack up, and when this goes dead, I can take this out, plug it back into another place around my house where I can recharge it from other power source, whether it's from charging off my car, charging from solar, or maybe from wind, or maybe any of the above. Have a central point where they all come into one place and I charge up to some kind of power wall. For now, I'm going to take my 100 amp hour battery, and everything I do to charge these back up will come from my 100 amp hour battery, and I'm going to hook it up to a solar and maybe eventually a wind generator so that that can be putting voltage back into it. And then it is where I would take all my batteries to recharge them when there's no power. All this has to do with not having any grid power. I'm on grid power. I want to be on grid power. I don't want to give up grid power, and I don't want to supplement the grid power with something else in my... I just want to be able to do certain things when they take the power away. I call it FOGS, forced off-grid surveillance. Survival, excuse me. And I've been come up with several different ideas and ways that I've been able to make my own battery packs from these things and different things like that. And when I go off grid, I can grab all my Ryobi batteries and put them to use for a while. I also have it planned in there a generator so that if I'm off the grid for more than a few hours, then I have to be able to recharge these things a lot, in which case I may start using my generator and just charging that way. I will tell you that just as a thought to recharge these, if you use the 2 amp hour battery chargers that they have to charge these, you can take a 200 watt inverter, plug it into your cigarette lighter, and you should be able to comfortably charge 3 batteries up from your own car without any problem. Just start it up, let it run, plug the inverter in, turn it on, plug in 3 battery chargers to it, and go to town. And you should be able to charge them up. Now, your car's going to have to run the whole time you do that, but, you know, it is an alternative. And with that in mind, that opens up a lot of ways that maybe I can charge this. From my 100 amp hour battery, there's no reason why I can't use a boost converter. So I can go from the 12 volts, 100 amp hour battery and charge these up from that. And just with a boost converter, so I can pump it up to 20 amps, or 20 volts, see, I did it, 20 volts, and charge this back up at whatever amp hours I want to push into it. Again, depending on whether I'm doing my 5 amp or my 9 amp battery, I may want to adjust how much is going in with that DC boost converter, but I don't think that'd be hard to set something up like that too, to be able to do that. I've already done one charger that puts, I think it puts 3 or 4 amps into my battery. And I made that charger so I can charge these up from my car in a pinch. And if you remember, that was a past episode. Anyway, those are the things I'm working on, because I think there's a lot of things we can do with these beyond what the tool company wants us to use them for. And why they don't do that, or maybe why they don't expand out into some of this emergency power sourcing, is beyond me. I don't know why they don't really get into it more. Ryobi has done a little bit, but I really don't like the way they've made these things. Well, that's another story. It's about how they do it, and I don't want to get into that. I don't want to criticize Ryobi. I use Ryobi products. I love their products, and I wouldn't change over to another brand in any cost, because of the variety you can get, and you get some pretty good batteries, and everything is very competitively priced. For me, it all works very well with the Ryobi brand. I could just as easily be doing this with one of the other tool brands instead if I wanted to. It just would change my adapters and how I would do it, because they're really all the same, these batteries, when you think about it. And the 44-volt system, that's nothing more than 2 of these joined together. So you can interchange and do a lot of things as long as you understand what you can do. And you can do some things that you can't do with, they say, they don't tell you you can do it. There's a lot of things you can do with these that I think it's actually kind of fun to figure it out. So anyway, as soon as I figure out everything there is about this battery more and more, I'll share that with you. If you know more about it, let me know, because I can't find any real information out there from anybody about, especially about charging. That seems to be a tightly held secret with Ryobi at this point still. So let me know about any sources of that stuff, or if you've done yourself, know what's going on there. I would love to hear about it. Leave all that stuff in the comments. There's lots more to come about this Ryobi stuff. I also want to make a solar Ryobi charger that I can just set out, and then I can plug my Ryobi batteries in and out of there during the day to charge them up. Kind of like the one fella did, Serendipity Sue. He did that already. So something very similar to that eventually I would like to do. But I think I'm probably going to go more with a power wall. Hi there. Yes, she's right here. What? You want one of these? Here. Go get it. Go on. Anyway, any questions about any of this? Any thoughts? Leave them in the comments. Hit that like button, especially if you learned something. And don't forget to share, because I think these ideas need to get out there more, so that we can get some help figuring out what's the best way to do all these different things. Because I can't do it on my own. So that's why you guys help a lot for that already. Anyway, please, most importantly, come back again, because I'm nowhere near done. It's already over 19 minutes. I gotta go. I'll be back soon. Maybe even tomorrow.